In this case study, we have a senior downsizing. Now, in the beginning, they had good intentions and they gave the opportunity to sell the house to somebody whom they knew from church, but that quickly turned out to be a big nightmare. Watch this video to the end to see what we did to help the seller get a not only successful sale, but avoid one of the most common pitfalls when dealing with buyers. In this case study, the seller was a senior and they had hired an agent from their church. The agent was a young guy who was newer to real estate and he was being mentored by somebody at that company. The seller wanted to give this young man a chance, an opportunity, and I really respect them for doing that. It's actually quite common for most people to hire somebody they either recommended to them or through some kind of an association. Unfortunately, you often run the risk when you hire somebody without the best credentials. But more importantly than credentials, you want to hire somebody that has a high level of commitment to their work. And this is really hard to gauge. Hard to gauge initially. While working with this agent, the home was on the market for over 60 days. And they actually received a couple of offers. But unfortunately, all of these buyers backed out and the seller was left with very little feedback. This was also during a time when the interest rate had been fluctuating, so having the proper pricing strategy was critical. Eventually, the seller was quite fed up with the lack of progress and asked to terminate their contract. Now, it was not exactly clear to me of the details, but from what the seller told me, it seemed like that this mentor of the agent was trying to hold the seller hostage. They told the seller, regardless of what happened, even if they themselves did not end up selling the house, the seller would still owe them their commission. We informed the seller that we would be happy to look over any legal documents and examine the fine print just to make sure that they are protected. And it turned out there was no such language, and it felt like something was illegal immediately as I heard it. After we were hired, we went to work and received a solid offer relatively quickly, but I wasn't initially feeling too hot about this buyer's choice of financing. This buyer was using an FHA loan, and although I didn't see any glaring problems right away, I didn't want the seller to have to deal with any possible hurdles that may come up later on just because it's FHA. Fast forward to 3 weeks before closing, I received a phone call from the loan officer whom, at this point, I already had some mixed feelings about them since it felt like during the entire process he was giving us the runaround with not a lot of clear answers. He informed me that the buyer's current place of employment will be closing down in about 3 months' time. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that the buyer is going to be out of a job? Does this mean the buyer is going to be denied for the loan? What does this mean? This actually gave us all a mini heart attack. Fortunately, this buyer did receive a new job offer within the same industry, and we eventually sold the house without any issues.